So the most crucial part of any project is going to be assembling the team that's going to be working on site. And so after we have a construction contract in place, we're ultimately going to be going through the first step of approving all those estimates to work with that trade partner to make sure that we're all on the same page and that we're actually following the design intent that was created, working through any of the nuances or issues that always tend to happen when comparing the design sets to what's actually happening in the field. So the first step to any good trade partner relationship is obviously collecting the estimate. So ultimately we're going to reach out to some of the craftsmen that are located throughout the valley to try to align ourselves with people that have similar values to us when it comes to quality. During this process, we have to get an estimate to be able to ensure that the full scope of the project for that specific partner has been accounted for. It's for this reason that it's so imperative for us to develop great relationships with our trade partners so that we can be able to compile our overall budget for the client. So after the collection of estimates are complete, that's when the real work starts for our team. Ultimately, our PMs are going to be reviewing the overall scope of the project as it relates to the specific estimates that have been submitted. We're going to go ahead and we're going to try to compare apples to apples of what's been included within the bids. So for instance, with concrete, does it include concrete pumping trucks or is it just a standard pour? And to do the proper access on the property to be able to complete the work in the way that it's stated on the estimate. While this is just one small example, this takes place throughout every piece of the project and every estimate that's reviewed. If this process isn't complete, it's really hard to nail down a specific budget for any of our projects moving forward. After this critical step is completed with our team, we're going to go back and we're going to ask these questions and we're going to help to fine-tune the overall scope of work. So now we've captured the appropriate scope and estimates from all of our trade partners, it's time to put together the budget for our projects and get approval to move forward. At this point, once we have a construction contract in place or on our specs, we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit send and we're going to go ahead and approve all those trade partners to be able to get them outlined for the scope of work and the overall construction schedule that's been created by our project manager. So despite thinking that this whole process might be done, now we have approved trade partners for the project. So we're going to have to spend some time with them reviewing the sets of plans in person. This is where our pre-con office visit is absolutely crucial. We're able to sit in the office and review the specific scope of work, any additional questions that might be had, and this meeting typically takes place 1 or 2 months prior to them being on site. It's at this point that we're actually able to sit down and talk about specific construction details and methodology, talk about design intent, and making sure that we flush out all the pertinent little questions and details that will ultimately make our project stand the test of time and provide a better overall end result for our clients once they move in. It's typically at this time that we're also starting to talk about some of the minor changes that might take place in the overall scope. Now, as mentioned before, we've tried to flush as much as we can out during the estimate period. But ultimately, as we reviewed in other videos, there's lots of little items that can come up in the field that we can add to the project that will ultimately meet the client's needs or overall provide them with additional functionality or design features that they didn't originally have within the overall scope of the project. So the last and very important piece for us and our trade partners is going to be the field handoff, and that's going to require an on-site construction meeting. We're no longer in the office, we actually have field conditions that we're working with, and we're meeting with the individual partners to be able to discuss the nuances as seen in the field. A great example of this would be how this mantle detail would work out in the field after it was framed, sheetrock, and cabinets were installed to make sure that we were not only meeting the design intent that the client wanted, but that it was actually something that could be accomplished with precision in the field. So this is the most pertinent meeting that we have because it allows us to be able to hand off the design intent, the overall scope of the project that was been taken place by our project manager to the actual field. So our PM is going to be at this meeting as well as our on-site construction manager that's responsible for the individualized project. He's going to be meeting with the key individuals or the main contacts for the crews that are going to be actually working and performing the work within the individual trade scope that has been signed. And we're going to work through any of the nuances that might be found. And this will allow us to work on our scheduling and make sure that there's proper communication throughout every piece of the construction process. So as you can see, when building custom homes, you truly need to hire a company that has project management skills. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle that need to be figured out before the first brick gets laid, before the concrete gets poured, before the tile is set, and before the cabinets are set. And ultimately, by hiring a company that has a great team, it will allow you to be able to get the overall project and not deal with a lot of the headaches that plague our industry. If you have any questions or you'd like to find more information about our process, click below, subscribe, or reach out with a DM or via email so we can set up a time to discuss your needs. Thanks for following along. Have a great day.